What if I told you that your soulmate is not sent to complete you, but to meet the version of you that is already whole? For too long, we have been told that love is about finding someone who fills the missing pieces, as if we are broken puzzles waiting for the right person to make us complete. But here is the truth. You are not half a soul. You were never created incomplete. And the greatest lie we have accepted is that someone else is the missing part of us. A wise monk once said, "You will know you have met the right person when you no longer need them to fix what you refuse to heal." Let that sink in. Because love is not meant to cover your wounds, it is meant to reflect the healing you have already begun within yourself. Before God introduces you to a soulmate, He introduces you to your own soul. And until you embrace that truth, every relationship will feel like a chase for something you already had inside. Think about the last time you felt lonely. Did you believe that loneliness meant you were incomplete? The world teaches us to interpret loneliness as lack, but in reality, loneliness can be a sacred invitation. It is the space where you learn to be with yourself, to hear your own thoughts, to face your fears without distraction. In that stillness, you discover that you are not waiting to be rescued. You are preparing to be recognized. When you walk into love with a desperate need to be completed, you often attract people who sense that desperation. They do not come to honor you, they come to feed on the insecurity you carry. But when you walk into love with the quiet confidence that you are already whole, something changes. You no longer chase, you no longer beg, you no longer settle. You begin to recognize not who can complete you, but who can complement you. Imagine a flower in full bloom. It does not chase the bee. It simply exists in its fullness, and the right presence is drawn to it. The same is true for you. When you stand in the truth of your wholeness, you no longer need to prove your worth. Your presence speaks before you say a word. So let me ask you this. Who will meet your soulmate, the version of you pretending to be enough, or the version of you that finally knows you already are? Because God is not waiting to send you someone to fill the holes in your soul. He is waiting for you to see that you were never a half to begin with. The myth of completion has robbed many of peace, but the truth of wholeness sets you free. And from that freedom, love does not arrive to fix you. Love arrives to walk with you. Every relationship begins long before the first hello, long before you notice someone across the room, long before the conversation that feels alive, long before the connection that surprises you. It begins in the unseen, in the energy you carry with you every single day. The truth is, the energy you embody becomes the silent invitation that shapes who you attract. This is what many call a vibrational match. Think about it. You can walk into a room and instantly feel at peace near someone you have never spoken to. You can also feel restless around another person without knowing why. This is not chance. It is resonance. Your nervous system is always scanning the world for patterns that match the rhythm of your inner life. If your rhythm is calm and grounded, you naturally recognize and feel safe with those who share that energy. If your rhythm is restless, anxious, or wounded, you are drawn to people who reflect that same pattern, even if it hurts you. Science supports this. Neuroscience teaches us about mirror neurons, the cells in our brain that allow us to reflect the emotions of those around us. They are the reason you can sense peace in the presence of someone steady, or discomfort in the presence of someone fragmented. Without realizing it, your mind and body are constantly seeking familiarity. And here is the challenge. Familiarity is not always healthy. You may unconsciously gravitate toward what matches your past, even if that past was full of pain. A woman once shared how every relationship in her life ended the same way. She gave everything, always showed up, always tried harder, yet she always ended up feeling invisible. At first, she believed she was simply unlucky, but as she looked deeper, she realized her pattern of overgiving was not rooted in love, but in fear. She feared she was not enough as she was, so she used care as a currency to buy worth. That subtle energy, though unseen, was felt. The men she attracted responded not to her generosity, but to her hidden insecurity. When she began doing the inner work, learning to sit with her discomfort instead of fleeing into someone else's arms, her energy shifted. She stopped trying to prove her value and started to embody it. She became softer in presence, but firmer in boundaries. And it was during a quiet and uneventful season that she met a man who did not just admire her light, but who was anchored in his own. There was no chase, no performance, only recognition. This is vibrational match in action. The flower does not chase the bee, it simply blooms. Likewise, a woman grounded in her essence does not need to beg for attention or twist herself into shapes to be noticed. Her energy introduces her long before her words ever do. But vibrational match is not about perfection. It is not about fixing every flaw or erasing every scar. It is about awareness. The goal is not to become flawless, but to become conscious of the signals you are sending into the world. Are you operating from desperation or from peace? From fear or from faith? From a scarcity mindset or from a spirit of abundance? God often prepares you for your soulmate, not by changing the people around you, but by transforming the energy within you. He teaches you to stop chasing shadows and start cultivating presence. You will know this shift is happening when the same people who once excited you suddenly feel draining. When conversations you used to tolerate now feel empty. When your spirit begins to reject anything that does not mirror the peace you have worked so hard to create inside. Vibrational match is about becoming aligned with the love you seek. If you desire someone kind, grounded, and faithful, you must cultivate kindness, groundedness, and faithfulness within yourself. Not as performance, not as strategy, but as authentic presence. So let me ask you, what energy are you carrying into the world each day? Are you unconsciously repeating old patterns that keep you tied to the wrong kind of love? Or are you choosing to embody the peace that will naturally attract a partner who honors and respects you? Because the truth is simple. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. And when you begin to embody the love you desire, you will no longer need to chase your soulmate. You will recognize them, and they will recognize you. We often expect the hand of God to appear with lightning bolts and grand signs. We imagine a dramatic encounter, a love story that feels like a movie scene. But the truth is, divine timing rarely announces itself with fanfare. More often, it is hidden in the most ordinary of moments. A quiet conversation in a coffee shop, a simple change in your routine. An unexpected detour that takes you somewhere you never planned to be. And yet, in those quiet disruptions, something extraordinary is set in motion. Life has a way of rerouting us when we least expect it. Sometimes what feels like a delay or a disappointment is actually divine choreography, the heartbreak that shattered your illusions. The job you lost that forced you to move cities. The season of solitude that felt like punishment but was actually preparation. These are not coincidences, they are alignments. A woman once shared that she met her husband during what she called the worst year of her life. She had lost her father, ended a long relationship, and moved to a new city for work. She described that year as one of grief, exhaustion, and loneliness. But in the middle of that season, while taking a silent walk through a park, she met a man who later became her partner. She said, "I was not even looking. I could barely imagine being open to anyone. And yet he met me in my rawness, not because I was whole, but because I was real." This is how divine timing often works. Not when you are ready by your standards, but when you are real by God's standards. Eastern wisdom teaches that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. In relationships, the same is true. When your spirit is receptive, the right presence enters, not to complete you, but to reflect the truth you have been becoming. From a psychological perspective, this is called cognitive reframing. It is the ability to reinterpret events in ways that reveal meaning rather than just pain. When you learn to see your detours as divine redirection, you begin to notice that what once felt like delay was actually design. You see the closed door not as rejection, but as protection. You notice how interruptions that frustrated you later turned out to guide you exactly where you needed to be. But here is the challenge. Divine timing requires presence. If your life is consumed with noise, mental, emotional, or digital, you will miss the subtle nudges. You will miss the whisper in the midst of the chaos. You will miss the quiet person standing right in front of you because you are too busy looking for signs in the clouds. Stillness sharpens awareness. Calm prepares your spirit to notice grace. Many people ask, why am I not meeting anyone aligned? Often the answer is not that the right person is absent, but that your nervous system is too overactivated to notice them. When your body is caught in a cycle of fear, desperation, or constant distraction, you are blind to the presence of grace. It takes stillness to perceive divine timing. It takes inner calm to recognize resonance. So let me ask you, how many doors have you tried to force open that were never meant for you? How many times have you called a season a failure when it was actually preparation? How often have you been so focused on what you thought you wanted that you missed what God was quietly placing in front of you? The truth is, divine timing rarely feels convenient. It may come through an invitation you almost declined, a conversation you never planned to have, a person you never expected to see again. But when it comes, it will not confuse you. It will confirm you. You will not need to chase it. You will recognize it. So the invitation is simple. Walk slower, listen deeper, trust the gentle rhythms of your own life. Stop demanding a sign and start noticing the grace already woven into your days. Because when the rhythm of your life flows with presence, when your awareness sharpens and your breath slows, you step into alignment. And in that alignment, paths cross. Not because you forced them, but because you are ready to notice them. Love rarely enters with noise. More often it arrives in stillness, hidden in the ordinary moments we are tempted to overlook. That is the genius of divine timing. It does not need to shout. It only needs you to be present enough to hear its quiet call. Most of us pray to meet the right person, but few of us realize that the wrong ones often come first. And as painful as it feels, those relationships are not wasted. They are mirrors of contrast, showing you who you are not meant to be with, and more importantly, showing you who you are becoming. Think about it. If love is a mirror, then every relationship reflects something back to you. The gentle ones reflect your softness. The difficult ones reflect your boundaries or the lack of them. The toxic ones reflect wounds you have not yet healed. At first, you may want to erase those chapters, pretend they never happened, but when you look closer, you see they were classrooms. And some of the hardest lessons are the ones that set you free. A man once told me about a relationship that nearly broke him. She was beautiful and charming, but every word she spoke made him question his worth. He stayed longer than he should have because he believed her treatment of him was a reflection of who he was. Only after the pain became unbearable did he realize the truth. Her actions were not a measure of his value, but a mirror of her own brokenness. In leaving, he did not just free himself from her, he freed himself from the lie that he was unworthy of respect. This is the power of contrast. Without the wrong ones, you would never fully recognize the right one. Without the darkness, you would never appreciate the light. God often allows you to walk through relationships that wound, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Because every time you learn what you do not want, you become clearer about what you truly deserve. From a psychological perspective, this is pattern recognition. Your nervous system remembers the ache of being dismissed, the sting of being taken for granted, the emptiness of love that is conditional. And when a new person enters, something inside you whispers, either this feels familiar or this feels different. That whisper is wisdom. It is the voice that reminds you not to return to what once broke you. But contrast is only powerful if you listen to the lesson. Too many people repeat the same cycle, choosing the same type of partner in a different body because they ignore the discomfort their soul is sending them. Interoception, the ability to sense your own inner signals, is the tool God gave you to break the cycle. That knot in your stomach, that heaviness in your chest, that sense of walking on eggshells, these are not random feelings, they are alarms. And when you ignore them, you invite the same pain again. Contrast also teaches boundaries. You do not know the value of saying no until you have said yes too many times and paid the price. You do not know the freedom of walking away until you have stayed too long. Boundaries are not walls to keep love out. They are gates to ensure only love that honors you comes in. One woman described her past relationships as a series of mirrors, each one showing her what she would no longer accept. At first, she felt ashamed, wondering why she kept attracting the same kind of man. But then she realized each one taught her a lesson. The first showed her she needed respect. The second showed her she needed honesty. The third showed her she needed someone who could meet her emotional depth. By the time she met her husband, she no longer negotiated her worth. She knew who she was, and she knew what she would not allow again. So let me ask you, are you still angry at the wrong ones, or are you ready to see them as the teachers they were? Are you still carrying shame for staying too long, or are you willing to honor yourself for finally leaving? Because the wrong ones were not sent to define you, they were sent to refine you. God does not waste pain. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every disappointment becomes part of the preparation. And when you embrace the lessons of contrast, you step into a clarity that cannot be shaken. The right one will not feel like a performance, a chase, or a compromise of your worth. They will feel like peace. And you will know it not because they are perfect, but because you have finally learned through contrast what love is not. So the next time you think back on the wrong ones, do not see failure, see training, see preparation, see the mirror that taught you how to recognize what your soul has always deserved. In a world that constantly tells you to keep moving, to keep searching, to keep proving, the idea of stillness can feel strange, almost uncomfortable, yet stillness is not weakness. It is one of the most powerful states you can cultivate, especially when you are waiting for the kind of love that is worthy of your soul. Most people assume finding a soulmate is about activity, about putting yourself out there, about searching until you finally stumble into the right person. But God often works differently. Instead of pushing you outward, He calls you inward. Instead of rushing your steps, He slows your spirit. And in that stillness, something profound happens. You discover your inner sanctuary. Stillness is the place where you finally hear your own voice after years of noise. It is where the distractions of fear, comparison, and insecurity lose their grip. It is where you stop asking, when will it happen, and start realizing that preparation is happening right now. The world measures readiness by action. God measures readiness by awareness. Consider how nature reveals this truth. A seed does not become a tree by constantly moving. It grows in stillness, hidden beneath the soil, nourished quietly until the right time comes. The same is true for you. The seasons of stillness are not wasted seasons. They are the soil where your strength, clarity, and peace are growing. And when the right time arrives, what was once hidden will bloom for all to see. From a psychological perspective, stillness regulates your nervous system. It allows your body to step out of fight or flight and into a state of safety and balance. Neuroscientists call this neuroception, the subconscious process of detecting whether an environment feels safe or dangerous. When you live in constant chaos, your system interprets life as threat and love as risk. But when you cultivate stillness, you create a sanctuary inside yourself that signals safety, and love flourishes in the presence of safety. A woman once told me that after years of searching, she finally gave up trying to find the right person. Instead, she chose to spend time in silence, journaling, walking in nature, praying, and simply being with herself. She said at first it was lonely, but then it became liberating. She realized she had been waiting for someone else to give her peace, when peace was always something she could cultivate within. Months later, she met a man who mirrored the calm she had found inside herself. She said, "I did not meet him by chasing, I met him by becoming." That is the sacred power of stillness. It does not mean you stop living. It means you start living with intention. You no longer fill your calendar to avoid yourself. You no longer rush from distraction to distraction in the hope of numbing your longing. Instead, you create space for God to work. You allow yourself to rest in the assurance that you are not behind, you are being prepared. Stillness also clarifies your boundaries. In the quiet, You realize what you will no longer tolerate. You hear the subtle whispers of your spirit saying, this is peace, this is love, this is truth. And those whispers become your compass. They help you recognize when someone new is aligned with your spirit or when they are only repeating patterns from your past. So let me ask you, when was the last time you allowed yourself to sit in silence without reaching for your phone, without filling the air with noise, without rushing to the next task? Stillness is not about doing nothing. It is about creating room for the voice of God to speak, for your spirit to breathe, and for your heart to prepare. The world may call stillness inactivity, but heaven calls it preparation. The more you cultivate your inner sanctuary, the more magnetic your presence becomes. People will feel the peace you carry before you even speak. And when your soulmate appears, they will not just be drawn to your smile or your words. They will be drawn to the calm, the clarity, and the strength of someone who has learned the sacred power of stillness. Because love is not about finding someone to quiet your chaos. It is about meeting someone who recognizes the peace you have already created inside yourself. And when that peace is present, love cannot help but find its way to you. There comes a moment when waiting is no longer about patience, but about elevation. You have walked through the pain of the wrong ones. You have sat in the stillness of preparation. You have allowed God to heal wounds you once thought would define you forever. And now the invitation is clear. Rise to meet the love you deserve. Elevation is not about arrogance. It is about alignment. It is choosing to live at a level that matches the love you are praying for. If you want a partner who is faithful, you choose faithfulness in your own life. If you desire kindness, you practice kindness in your daily actions. If you long for a love that feels safe, you cultivate safety in your own soul, because the truth is simple. You will never attract a love that sits higher than the level of your own spirit. Think of a mountain. At the base, the air is crowded and noisy. People push past each other, distracted by urgency, caught in survival. But as you climb, the air becomes clearer, the view wider, the distractions fewer. Not everyone will climb with you. Some will stop halfway. Some will not even begin. But if you keep rising, you will find that only those who are willing to climb to your level can stand beside you. Elevation is costly. It requires leaving behind old patterns, saying no to easy options, and refusing to settle for half-truths. It means letting go of the people who once made you feel seen but could never truly honor your soul. It means releasing the fear that you will end up alone and trusting that God does not call you upward to abandon you. He calls you upward to align you. A man once shared that after years of failed relationships, he finally realized the problem was not that he had not met the right person, but that he had not become the right version of himself. He said, I was asking for a love I had not yet prepared to receive. So he began working on his integrity, his health, his faith. He elevated his life not for the sake of impressing anyone, but to honor the kind of partner he hoped for. And when he finally met her, he said the most surprising part was how natural it felt. There was no struggle, no pretending, no chasing. It felt like meeting someone at the summit of a climb they had both chosen to make. This is what elevation feels like. Not desperate striving, but quiet confidence. Not waiting for someone to pull you up, but standing tall because you chose to rise. But here is the challenge. Elevation cannot be faked. You cannot pretend to carry peace if you are consumed by fear. You cannot pretend to have integrity if you still compromise your values in secret. You cannot pretend to be whole if you still chase people to fill your emptiness. Elevation is not about image, it is about substance. And substance is what attracts a love that lasts. So let me ask you, what are you still holding on to that keeps you at the base of the mountain? What fears still whisper that settling is safer than climbing? Because the love you deserve is not waiting at the bottom. It is waiting at the top. And only by rising will you ever see it. God is not asking you to climb alone. He has been preparing you for this journey all along. Every heartbreak taught you strength. Every moment of stillness built your peace. Every season of waiting deepened your wisdom. And now you are ready, not because life is perfect, but because you have chosen to rise. So rise rise in your faith, rise in your boundaries, rise in your self-respect, rise in your courage to believe that the love you have prayed for is not a fantasy, but a promise waiting to meet you at the summit. Because when you choose elevation, you will discover that your soulmate is not someone you had to chase, but someone who was climbing all along, waiting to meet you at the place where only the brave arrive.